you? Or what happens if you don't get that, 20 minutes, if you don't get that 1 hour or get to take that cold shower? How's your energy throughout the day?
For me, I can notice my being much more anxious and much more reactive. If I don't do my routine, I can feel it in my body physically, the restlessness, which then becomes very difficult to manage.
And it trickles into your day, right? Your
Yeah,
work, yeah,
exactly.
how you show
Into
up for the rest of
everything,
the day.
into everything.
One thing I absolutely try to do very consistently is get a good night's sleep. So for me, my routine or, my energy level, it starts with just being thoughtful about when I go to bed, how do I go to bed, and, trying to not eat too late at night, and cut back on alcohol and other things that impact the depth of my sleep.
Quality of sleep.
And so I think that, yeah, so the quality of the sleep for me really is probably a bigger determinant of my energy level.
Let's learn how our next guest gets up, dress up, and show up on purpose. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lunid, and today I have the honor of introducing a very special guest, not just one, but two amazing gentlemen to the show today, Gaurav Bhatnagar and Mark Minukas. They are both
Minukas, you got it. Thank you.
I got it. Creation of co-creation, a collaborative effort by both, and they recently published their first book on fear, and that aims at teaching businesses how to have better synergy, better relationships, and that can be quite difficult to do sometimes, but we know we are the sum of the five people we hang out with, and so it's imperative that we have the right people in our corner and kind of build those relationships, because you never know where it can lead, what opportunity can lead. So I'm really excited to have them here because they're collaborative experiments have got them to work in manufacturing, technology, travel and logistics, and even government. And so I'm honored to have both on. So with no further ado, Gaurav, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on. Tell us about your synergy. How did you two come about?
Mark, you want to tell us how did we get together?
Yeah. Yeah, so Gaurav and I come from, arguably different backgrounds, but similar in some ways. So we both passed through the consulting firm McKinsey and Company for a while. Gaurav had left McKinsey before I did, actually, by a few years, and had founded Co-Creation Partners. And I was still at McKinsey at the time, and I was doing this. True to my more engineering background, I was doing this lean transformation at a financial services company, and I was focusing on all the nuts and bolts of how this company, achieve their work and serve customers. And the same company hired Gaurav and Co-Creation Partners to do this touchy-feely, culture stuff. And I heard about this, this culture stuff that they were going to be doing. And, my ego was a little bit bruised. I was like, well, we do mindsets and behaviors. Why do they have to bring in another firm to do this other stuff? So I was really intrigued and, threatened, frankly, about this other firm coming in. And so I decided to drop into one of these quote unquote culture workshops that Gaurav and team were running, and just to check in and make sure that he wasn't going to mess up my beautiful lean transformation. And I very quickly started to really see this tremendous benefit of the culture work that Co-Creation Partners does. It was really in many ways the missing link in this systems view of how organizations perform. I was always focused on the tangible part of the system, but there really is this intangible mindset component that is such a significant driver of what happens in organizations and how it also impacts people's well-being. And so I was hooked from the first few minutes, and Gaurav and I kept in touch over the years and decided to collaborate. and be business partners together. So that's kind of where it all started. And we discovered that there was a real synergy in terms of what we brought to the table. You know, I bring more of the perhaps operational systems perspective, and Gaurav brings more of the deep personal transformation. And together
Yeah,
we help organizations do something amazing.
yeah, and especially I see that in a lot of technology, big technology companies. You have a lot of engineers, a lot of software, IT development. They don't really have that knack for the relationship building aspect of it. They're kind of like more the numbers, kind of like you, Mark, the operations, like
Yeah.
let me just do the data analysis piece of it, but don't have that other crucial piece to actually levitate to the next level. So it's really, really an important piece to kind of coin together here.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it's interesting. I'll let Gaurav jump in here in a second, but you know, I reflect on my life, and a lot of what I learned in school was all about, you know, scientific thinking, and you know, the only things that matter are the, you know, the tangible things that you put your hand on. So I was taught throughout my whole life to just suppress emotions and to put all that, you know, touchy-feely, soft stuff over to the side, because it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. What really matters are the results that you achieve, and you know, the stuff that you can put your hands on. And gosh, I think it's so wrong. It's such an incomplete view of the world.
The
Go on.
intangibles, yeah. And then what happens, what did you find happened at the end, right? You felt like you were just pushing along solo, and when you needed to get to the next level, it was harder because you didn't have anyone to pull you up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, my own life, I developed this pattern of being a very hyper competitive person. And, you know, it was all about the results that I was achieving and whether I was better than other people, or what sort of label or title or status I was being bestowed upon by the world. And that's just a very soul crushing way to live your life. I
Mm-hmm.
think it can maybe work for a very limited period of time, but it doesn't really nourish your soul, so to speak. And, you know, it's very limiting. Yeah. So at some point in my life, I was very burnt out. Around the time that I met Gaurav, I was quite burnt out and stressed out, and really not satisfied with what I was doing, but I was kind of in the rat race, so to speak. And so it took a little while for me to step back out and really see it for what it was, and perhaps
Yeah.
make some deeper shifts in my life.
So Mark
Gaurav,
has the
what do you think?
mentality of
Yeah.
Mark has the mentality of a lot of men, right? And you have a lot of business entrepreneurs who wear that hat. Like, you
Yeah,
know, it's no one's coming.
absolutely.
You know, I have to get it done. So now I know, Gaurav, you have a whole new perspective. So let's hear your your insight on the matter.
Yeah, well, almost it's an interesting thing, right? We as human beings are really funny people. And we put on these personas in our lives, and we say, hey, there's a work persona and a home persona.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately the work that I do is how do you create an integrated human being that can show up at their best wherever they are. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the big ideas in my work is that that if you go to the DNA of organizations, it's people. If you don't have the people, there's nothing. And so
Right.
the work fundamentally is about people rather than about the spreadsheet or the numbers or the technology. People create all of that. So if you want to really unlock something powerful, you have to work on the people. And that's what my work has all been about. And I love talking about how my work is about helping people bring their heart to work, because that's how you really actually create high performing organizations.
Getting buy-in, right? See, let them have them see the vision. It's the entrepreneur, the CEO, right? Have the employees see the vision so they can carry it out easier. Getting buy-in right from the start.
Yeah, and I would even go to scary, I use the words I use, but I would say more than buy-in, falling in love with the vision so that they get excited about it, and they're not talking about, it as a job. They're talking about it as their mission and their purpose.
Mm-hmm. I know Steve Jobs did a very good job at that, but he is Steve Jobs. I saw, what is it, the founder of Uber did a really good job on doing that and getting buy-in. What are some tips that entrepreneurs can use to actually excite the people in that way to bring their heart?
Yeah, so one of the biggest thoughts that I often tell entrepreneurs is that your most important job is to be a powerful storyteller. You're not,
Okay.
you don't get people to buy in by presenting PowerPoint charts. The way you get people to buy in is by telling stories and helping people hook in with that story. So if you really want to be successful in terms of getting people excited, you need to be incredible at telling stories about where are you trying to go, but where are you coming from? Right? It's not just enough to say, hey, we're going to make lots and lots of money. It's even more important to say, why are we doing this? What is at the heart of this business? The heart of Uber is not just about making lots of money. It's about helping people find a convenient way to move so that they can do the things that they need to do. The heart of Apple is about providing technology that makes life easier. That's the story, which is the core. And if you can't tell the story of your organization, everything else just falls apart.
Hmm. Well put. So you
I
gotta
love that.
know you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, we're just going to add, I think another piece in addition to storytelling, this is very important for entrepreneurs as well, is seeing everyone in your organization as a leader, not just yourself. And, if you see everyone else as a leader and you can relate to them as adults to adults, you give them a voice, and you really, that's exciting and inspiring for most people in startup organizations, is to really deeply participate in what's happening. So I think that's another
Empowerment.
aspect of it too.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
empower them.
empowerment. Yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't mean that everyone gets to do whatever they want too. I think that's sometimes the flip side is, well, everyone gets to do what they want. I mean, you still have to engage people in conversations. You still have to make some hard decisions, but by treating people as adults and leaders, then
Yeah.
you're relating to them as if they have something really important to add. And we still have to have the hard conversations and make the hard choices.
Yeah, seeing them as the expert. That's really one sound advice. Bringing people on as experts to kind of execute on your behalf. And another quote that I got, and I don't know why Steve Jobs keeps coming up, but he said, I hired smart people not so I can tell them what to do, but they can tell me what to do. So coming from that place of leadership, right? Knowing that, hey, you're the expert, you take the lead on this and you run with it. That autonomy, that like freedom to creatively think and solve problem solving is imperative. That way you don't have to micromanage, right? And hand holding.
Yeah, and I think a pitfall I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of founders of startups fall into is they see themselves as the one who has to bring all the solutions and all the technical expertise into the organization, and it becomes difficult for people in that headspace to let go of the reins and to be more the storyteller and more of the empowerer of people in the organization. So there's obviously no perfect trade-off there, but I would hope that your listeners would understand, or at least be cued into some of the trade-offs of showing up as the one and only expert in the organization who's telling other people what to do.
How do we what's the word, relinquish that power, right? Because you start off, it's your baby, right? And you definitely get to wear all these different hats. How do one begin to start relinquishing that power, that right to others, to gain that trust? Again, back to the relationship with the people within the community, to be able to delegate and allow them to flourish.
So here's the interesting thought, which is tough, but let me give it out. The way you actually show strength is by relinquishing, because you know that you can actually step in whenever you need to. In fact, one of the greatest acts of strength as a leader is to empower other people to step in, because now you have the comfort to know that you have the ability to make magic happen. So often when leaders say we need to be strong and they try and control things, it's actually a sign of weakness, because they don't trust themselves and others to be able to do the things that need to happen. So one of the big ideas is, if you truly a strong leader, you will show vulnerability and you will show the humility to say, hey, other people are really, really smart and they can step in. The humility to me is a really interesting idea that leaders need to play with. And, it's really interesting because in our current environment, somehow this idea of leadership and being strong is is being projected, but actually strength really comes from humility and from vulnerability, not from asserting yourself all over the place and trying to prove to everyone that you're the boss.
Well put, Gaurav. Well put. Mark, anything you want to add to that? Now I nailed it, yeah?
I think that's well said. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the first step is always awareness, that usually reveals some other choices that you have. So if you are one of those leaders who may revert to a bit more of control or competitiveness, notice the moments or the times when you feel like you're pulled in that direction, and see if just that awareness could reveal different ways that you can show up. And maybe it reveals times when you can say, look, I don't know, or I am feeling the uncertainty of the situation. I need your input, or I need your voice in this thought process. That may help.
Yeah. So we talked a great deal about leadership and being, the top and owning it. Let's talk about team building. And we know the 5 stages of team building: norming, forming, storming, adjoining. That I just gave you 3 of them.
Forming, storming, norming, performing, adjoining.
Yeah, there you go. He's
it.
the expert. I'm not gonna act like I'm the expert. Let's talk about how to effectively do that, especially the storming piece of it, right? And kind of elaborate a little bit what that is for those who are unaware. How do you get through the storming piece, and what happens? Because once you do, there's a beautiful magic at the end of that, right? There's that performance that takes place.
Yeah. So I think there is a really interesting thought around when do you storm and what is the purpose of storming, right? So if you already know all the answers and you're just performing as usual, you don't need to storm. Storming is needed when you need to create something new, when you need to create growth. Because when there's certainty, there is no new ideas that come up. So the purpose of storming needs to be very clear. If a leader just goes and does storming for the heck of storming, actually you create more chaos in the system. Right. So therefore, the forming part, which sets up the conditions and helps people understand why you're storming, is really important. But in the storming, what a leader needs to do is one of 3 things. Either the leader puts a challenge in and then steps back and says, I'm not giving the solution, which creates the storm. The other is that the leader plays the devil's advocate and questions everything. But if you want to play the devil's advocate, you need to have in the formed enough trust with the team that they don't think of it as being arrogance, right? And the third thing that the leader needs to do is the leader needs to be able to follow the direction of the storm so that at the end of it, they can do the synthesis, the norming, so that people understand why they were taking through this process of storming. Because if you don't do the synthesis, now everyone says, oh my God, this was exhausting. And what the hell? Why did we go through it and all of that stuff? Right? So as a leader, the ability to let go, the ability to challenge, and the ability to synthesize is fundamental in the storming process. And if you do one of the 3, that's not enough. But it is, as you said, so powerful. If you don't do that, you're not constantly growing your team and growing the capability and growing the quality of what you're offering to the world.
Yeah, and as you say, it's growing. It's that growth. It's that performance. There's storm. I don't think I've looked at it that way, because usually when you start a new project, these come into place. But I never looked at it like you go into a storm because you're growing.
Yeah. It is very intentional. You have to storm very intentionally. Don't just do it willy-nilly, otherwise it creates just chaos.
Yeah, not talking about storming out of the room, just out of anger and frustration. Got to be strategic about when you actually are looking for new ideas. As you said, there's new ideas on the horizon, and growth is also right around the corner. So yeah, thank you, well put. Anything else you want to add around that? Mark, anything?
The only thing I would add is storming is really important in order to get to norming and performing. And it often takes some real time. If you're thinking of having a meeting to work through some issue, depending on how much time you have, you really need to be thinking about spending anywhere from a third to as much as a half of your time in that storming phase before you can get to the norming and performing. And I've seen leaders that, have a high need for control, and they try to shortcut the storming phase where there's, it's just sort of messy because they just need to get to the do and the takeaways. And so just being a little more comfortable with creating real space for storming, even though it feels messy and chaotic, can actually make a team much faster in the long run.
Can there be collateral damage?
Yes.
I think there's never a choice in life without consequences. I think the question is, are you aware of the consequences, and are you choosing them mindfully? So I think there's always some sort of collateral damage. Gaurav?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in anything you do, not just in storming, in anything you do, because you don't live in a perfect world, there are unintended consequences. And one of the things that leaders need to understand is, if you're not willing to live with the unintended consequences, the collateral damages you put it, then you're not being an effective leader. Your job as a leader is to embrace the collateral damage and manage it so that the team can keep moving forward. You can't say, I'll take all the good stuff, but all the collateral damage is everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
It's a necessary outcome.
It's unavoidable, and sometimes you may lose team members. You may lose valuable team members, people that have been there for years, loyalty, and that's okay, because what got you here won't get you there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll tell you very honestly, I've been going through a storming process where I am not the leader of the team. I'm a member of the team, and I am the collateral damage of that team leaving. But if it is right for that team, it is okay, because that may be the right outcome for the future of that system. And even as a team member, you need to be able to be willing to accept that and see it and honor it, not as something which is an affront to you, but it's something that is just a logical outcome of a process.
In other words, don't take it personal.
Yeah. Never.
Yeah, I think it's I think that's a really, really interesting point, and maybe just one very, very practical thing for your listeners as well. In order to mitigate some of the risk, perhaps in the storming phase, is to separate the people from their ideas. It's great to disagree with ideas or challenge ideas. It's not really effective to disagree with people for who they are, and so we sometimes subtly take things personally and judge other people or judge ourselves or think we're being judged, and trying to create a norm where people can challenge ideas but accept the person is really critical.
Mm-hmm. And that's not too left brain either. That's that sense of awareness and knowing, like, hey, for the good of the succession of the team and everyone around, just knowing what to not take personal.
Yeah, that left side of our brain is constantly trying to label, assign labels to things in the world, because that's what we do. And by labeling, we're able to dissect the world and make better sense of the world. But it can really get us in trouble when we start to label people for who they are.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for sharing. Well put. Let's talk about co-creation. How have you helped some of your clients?
Yeah, so the work that we do at co-creation is all about bringing together two ideas that often people see as being in contradiction, which is creating sustained high performance and doing it through employee well-being. And so the work that we do with organizations, whether they're small or large, is work on the mindset of the people in the organization, which allows them to show up in a way that improves their own well-being, but also then improves the performance of the organization. And it usually is a multi-month process, which requires us to work on the individual, the team, and the organization at the same time. So we don't just work on any one of those dimensions, because you have to work on all three: the I of a team, the we of a team, and the it of a team, in order to really help them drive performance. And we've seen this again and again and again with our work, that after our work, people talk about not just, the 5 to 6 time improvement in performance, but about how special that experience was and how they can help them become better
Mhm.
human beings, both at work as well as at home. So for us, that is what is the work that we do. And it involves strategy, coaching, facilitation, operational work, lean transformation, all of that stuff. But we do it by putting the human being at the center.
A whole culture shift.
Yeah.
So culture change happens.
Yeah. That's fundamentally the work. We help organizations build new, dramatically improved cultures.
And it looks like it's a holistic approach because you start from the top to bottom, right? So it's a holistic, getting everyone involved, every aspect of the business.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Yeah, and that's what's needed to, if you really want to shift the whole system, organizational system, you do have to engage with, many, many layers.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about your morning routine. How do you both get up, dress up, and show up? What is it that you do, the disciplines you put in place to help you show up for co-creation, the partners you work with?
Mark, what's your morning routine, man?
Well, now Myers-Briggs, the whole JP, I'm a very strong P personality, so I enjoy a lot of options. So I don't know if I have a real solid routine, but one thing that I do, so I really believe that, the mindsets that we hold as individuals really do condition how we show up in the world. And so one thing
Yeah.
I do as I wake most mornings is, and I'm usually when I'm in bed, I'll kind of reflect on how I want to show up for the day, and what are some of I'll sort of cue the mindsets or just some of the thought patterns that I really want you to have and bring throughout the day, and be mindful of the ones that sort of tend to creep in. So there's a guy in the world who is very competitive, this idea of, well, I'm not enough or I have to prove myself is sort of a perennial, idea that just pops into my head and, may color some of my dreams that I had, the night before. And so as I wake, I just try to be mindful of, what is that voice in my head, and to, quiet the voices that I don't want to have, and really embrace the ones that I do. And so when I wake up and get going in the day for the day, that helps me show up at my best.
Yeah, and I like that you share that and are vulnerable about that, because there is constant chatter, right? There is that I call them ants, right? Automatic negative thoughts. They're just the faults, and that we have to be aware of them and be able to shift them. And it could just be by nature that's just the way we are programmed, and that's why renewing the mind is so important. And I find it with affirmations too, it really helps, but it's constant. Just like taking a shower, you gotta reframe those thoughts or else they will run you over, because that's how your habits are built.
Yep. Absolutely. And maybe the other fun one is I take cold showers. Speaking of showers, I'll take a cold shower in the morning to just wake me up and just get going.
Nice.
So that's a routine I've really embraced over the last year, and I love it. I recommend it for everybody. Gaurav, what's yours?
He doesn't look like he takes a cold shower. I saw his face when you said it. I take one too.
My morning routine is I typically wake up at 5 a.m. and the first thing I do is I meditate for 20 minutes. And the first hour is when I do my best thinking. So my morning, before the emails come in, before I need to get onto phone calls, I meditate and I reflect on the ideas that I want to implement in my life, in my world. And that's what I do. Then I'll take a sneak at the newspaper. If I don't find it too negative, then I'll not look at it anymore. And then I'll go to my schedule to see what is it that the rest that the day needs to look at. But the morning is all about my time to get myself in the state of mind and the creative place through which that I will be able to be effective.
It helps us thrive. Yeah, the morning the morning routine is imperative. Whether you think you have one or not, you have a routine. You have a steps that you take to get out before you get out of the door, before you get to your computer. There are things that you do now, whether it's productive, whether it's robust, like that's really, really up to you. And Gaurav, you said that you do your best thinking or your best work in the morning, but it doesn't sound like you start work right away. That time you're actually utilizing it to kind of plan and forecast and visualize and kind of create what the day looks like or further beyond
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So first I meditate, then I do the creative thinking, and then I visualize and plan. So I don't want to get into the visualizing and planning till I've done the creative thinking, whatever it needs to be, whatever the question I'm grappling with. I first want to do my creative thinking because the moment I start getting to planning, then the creative thinking starts to
It
shift
goes,
away. Yeah.
yeah. And for both of you, what happens if you miss a day? You're traveling, you have kids running around, he comes in and wake you up. What happens if you don't get that, 20 minutes, if you don't get that 1 hour or get to take that cold shower? How's your energy throughout the day?
So for me, I can notice my being much more anxious and much more reactive if I don't do my routine. And I travel on flights all the time, so I'm doing international travel all the time. And even there, if I don't do my routine, then I can feel it in my body physically, the restlessness, which then becomes very difficult to manage.
Yeah. And it trickles into your day, right? Your
Yeah,
work, yeah,
exactly.
how you show
Into
up for the rest of
everything.
the day.
Into everything.
Mhm. Mark?
Yeah. Well, as someone who doesn't embrace a whole lot of routine, I wouldn't say it throws me off too much, but one thing I absolutely try to do very consistently is get a good night's sleep. So for me,
Mhm.
my routine or, my energy level, it starts with just being thoughtful about when I go to bed, how do I go to bed, and all that. So I've been working on, trying to not eat too late at night and cut back on alcohol and other things that impact, the depth of my sleep.
Quality of sleep.
And so I think that, yeah, so the quality of the sleep for me really is probably a bigger determinant of my energy level.
Yeah, I do hear it quite a bit with multiple entrepreneurs that the morning routine starts the night before. You gotta prep yourself for success, and that's adequate sleep, deep sleep, rejuvenating. So thank you both for sharing. I always love to hear morning routine of successful entrepreneurs because it really just like it proves it that like you don't just get up and find success. You have to be disciplined. Tell us about where we can find you. How can we connect with you?
Marco.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. We're always open for people reaching out. If you just want to talk and just share ideas, please do reach out. I think the easier email is mark@cocreationpartners.com. You could also email Gaurav underscore Bhatnagar at cocreationpartners.com. I won't spell it here on the podcast, or go to cocreationpartners.com, no hyphen, and check us out. And you can email us or contact us through the website. But that's really the best way. And please do reach out. Really excited to meet new people and just talk about any topics related to performance and human well-being.
Thank you both for coming and sharing. It's been very insightful hearing about leadership and team building, as well as how to build those relationships to get buy-in right from the start. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Real pleasure.
Perfect.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please comment and tell us what was your favorite part, your favorite habit that you are going to try out for yourself today. Comment below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, I will see you at the top of your best morning routine ever. Stay blessed.